Are you looking for extensive guide and introduction to our early years learning framework Belonging, Being, Becoming version 2.0 that was published in 2022? Search no more. This is gonna be an extensive video covering EYLF or early years framework for all interested in learning everything about this important professional document. Fasten your belt and get ready to learn. So EYLF is the curriculum framework, so which means that this framework guides our programming and planning and daily practices, routines, and everything we do in early childhood education and care. It includes our interactions with children, our interactions with families, and our interactions with colleagues and other professionals. So you can see based on this overview that it has three big ideas that stay the same: belonging, being, becoming. We also have learning outcomes that stay the same while some outcomes being added. So we still have 5 learning outcomes. They are in green here. We also have principles that been updated. So we have 3 new principles: Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander perspectives, we have sustainability and collaborative leadership and teamwork, and a couple of principles have been reframed. So now they sound slightly different. So they sound like equity, inclusion, and high expectations, and critical reflection and ongoing professional learning. We also have practices. So we used to have 5 learning outcomes, 5 principles, and 8 practices. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 practices. So that's pedagogical practices or pedagogy, basically, how we implement those big ideas: belonging, being, becoming, and principles into practice. And here we also have few updates. So in general they stayed the same. They just streamlined them a little bit more and reframed them a little bit. So holistic, integrated, and interconnected approaches. We have responsiveness to children that stayed the same. Play-based learning changed into play-based learning instead of intentional teaching to intentionality. Learning environments, the same practice. Cultural responsiveness changed. It used to be a cultural competence. Also continuity of learning and transition stayed the same, and assessment evaluation for learning, development, and well-being has been reframed. I recommend to print this overview from the EYLF, as it is such a beautiful poster and diagram. In each room it can remind educators how to use EYLF and have all principles, practices, big ideas, and learning outcomes at a glance. What else I really like about this poster is that it's color-coded. That means that you remember that principles are pink, hot pink, then we have purple practices, we have green outcomes, and big ideas are blue. So I use the same colors in this presentation. That will help you to remember those ones a little bit better and make sense of them more. Now, let's look at our EYLF. That's belonging, being, becoming. And it is a curriculum framework that could be used in daily practice. So you can see it's got beautiful color. It has a lot of visuals, so it's been updated since the last version. Definitely became much better. So we like this one a lot. The early years learning framework titled Belonging, Being, and Becoming. These are 3 overarching ideas. If you remember, they are blue color on this diagram that we looked at. It's an Australian national curriculum framework, which means that it is applicable to all states and territories. They also have their own approved learning frameworks. For example, in Victoria, we have our own Victorian early years learning and development framework, or VYLDF. And in other states, they have their own approved state framework or territory framework. EYLF covers all states and territories from 0 to 5 years of age. So that's with focus on early childhood education and transition to school. This framework draws on Australian international evidence, scientific evidence that confirms that early childhood years are very important for brain development, for setting up lifelong habits, dispositions, etc. So it's really important time to invest into children's development, education, learning, and well-being. And that's why this framework definitely is important to learn about and familiarize yourself with. The first framework, EYLF version 1, was developed with a considerable input from the experts from early childhood, and it included families, children, approved providers, educators, other professionals. This time it also involved all the stakeholders and also peak bodies, RTOs, TAFEs, researchers, government bodies, etc. So EYLF 2.0 version 2 now is updated to add all the new theories, new developments, and new research, and any feedback that they received while using the EYLF version 1 for the first 10 years. So this framework is definitely an updated version. As I said, it's good to start learning about it and learning about it in depth. So this framework, EYLF, belonging, being, becoming, puts children's learning at the core of every single principle, practice, big idea, and learning outcome. So children's ideas, interests, needs, children's personality, character, culture are put at the center of the vision of the early years learning framework. Also, principles reflect respectful relationships with children, partnerships with families. Practices also focused on making children's learning better, more effective, and learning outcomes are broad outcomes that support children's learning across different domains, holistic learning, including spiritual learning as well. All elements of EYLF are fundamental to early childhood pedagogy and effective curriculum decision making. Now you are wondering, what is pedagogy? And EYLF, of course, has a definition of it. So if you look at the book, it has a wonderful glossary. That's an update as well. And now ASICWA created really wonderful cards so you can get yourself tested or add it to your programming and planning rooms. Or if you're a student, you can start learning about what is inclusion, what is play-based pedagogy, what is cultural safety. So these cards are fantastic. It's like flashcards that you can use to learn more about these key ideas. But if we discuss pedagogy briefly, it is an art and science of teaching, and it includes all these pedagogical practices that are outlined in the EYLF. It incorporates theories teachers and educators use when they deliver learning to children. As for curriculum, EYLF describes it as everything that happens in the early childhood center or setting. It could be family daycare as well. Could be after school care if we are using My Time, Our Place framework. But it does affect decision making about what to include in the program, how to run the program, how to run routines, and how to improve them as well. Let's start with big ideas from the EYLF. EYLF big ideas. Do you remember 3 of them? Yeah, can you name them? Belonging, being, and becoming. Well done. So let's start with belonging. Belonging is a very important idea. So if you remember the first EYLF, it did cover it extensively, and there were many materials that were created to support understanding of belonging as a big idea. So experiencing belonging is when you know where and with whom you belong. It's an integral part of our human experience, and of course children belong to their families, neighborhoods, communities. They also part of global community and the world, and they are becoming citizens. So belonging acknowledges child's interdependence with others and the basis of relationships in defining identities. So this is really impacted by the social cultural theory that impacts all the ideas in the EYLF. Children build trusting relationships with their carers, with educators, with the community, and also they have affirming or positive experiences that are creating this sense of belonging and supporting sense of belonging. It is central, that's why it is belonging first, to being and becoming, and it shapes children who they are and who they become. And that's a quote from our EYLF version 2 on page 6. You can find it. The second idea is being. Children are in the moment, so childhood is a stage of life, and it's very important stage if you think about it, right? So childhood is a time to be, to seek, to make meaning of the world, being recognized for who you are, being in present. It's all about children being themselves, being children, developing their identity, building and maintaining relationships with others, engaging life's joys and complexities, and meeting challenges in everyday life. Being a child is very unique stage of life, and we need to support each of these stages. Let's say being a baby, being an active and exuberant toddler, being a preschooler who is more agentic and independent. So the early childhood years are not solely preparation for school. That's why EYLF focuses on these three ideas first, and then continuity of transitions. It's about children being in here and now, and I absolutely love this idea. Next idea is becoming. So becoming is also quite an important big idea, overarching idea. So children are learning, yes, so they are learning to get to the space where they understand more, they develop dispositions, capabilities, skills, relationships, challenges, face challenges during childhood. Children are shaped by different events and circumstances, and becoming, as a third idea, reflects this process of rapid and significant change that occurs in early childhood years as children learn and grow. It emphasizes the collaboration of educators, families, children to support and enhance children connections and capabilities, and for children to actively participate as future and current citizens. Another quote from EYLF. So these are three ideas. Now you can see them on the next slide as vision. I'm just gonna go down so you can see it. This is another poster I would have in each room in my classroom. I definitely have. So it helps you to look at the vision quickly. Three overarching ideas: belonging, being, becoming, and see where it sits on top. You also can see principles, to the left, then practices and learning outcomes. And this helps you to soak it through visual support and have these posters everywhere throughout the center or your family daycare. Now let's talk about EYLF principles. Remember that they are pink, yes, so on our diagram. So always remember that it's now more than 5 principles. It's 8 principles. If you remember the old EYLF, it's been updated. So we have 8 principles, right? So 8, that's how I use visuals. So you see number 8. So this always helps you to remember as well on the slides. They reflect contemporary theories, perspectives, research, evidence concerning children's learning and early childhood education, pedagogy. These principles underpin what we do or our teaching practices that are focused on assisting all children to make progress in relation to their learning outcomes or learning goals that are broad. We also need to consider when we implement practices that our principles are based on beliefs and ideas that are modern, ethical, socially just, and inclusive. So the key change in the new EYLF is that we have now 8 principles, and also we have quite a lot of added principles that support inclusion. Yes, so as you can see, we have now embed Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander perspectives. We have focus on diversity, which used to be part of the EYLF. We need to focus on partnerships with families, and families could be all diverse. Of course, we have to build secure, respectful, reciprocal relationships with children. This principle hasn't changed. But we also need to commit to equity, inclusion, and high expectations. So that's a big extended principle now. Sustainability also focuses on rights of children in the now, also people of the future. We need to be sustainable in order to leave something for future generations and be just to nature as well, and animals and other than humans. We are engaged in critical reflections and professional learning that is ongoing. And of course, the new principle is also about collaborative leadership or shared leadership, which is quite advanced approach as we work as a team. So that's an idea of shared leadership is created by Manjula Vaninga Nayaki. That's quite modern research, and it's now reflected in the EYLF. Let's look at the first principle that is called secure, respectful, and reciprocal relationships with children. Relationships are secure and respectful with children when we obviously attend to their needs and when we warm and responsive. So responsive means that you are picking up a child who cries, you ask questions, you maintain eye contact, you are curious, and you also guide their behavior from day one. But most importantly, you are attuned to their thoughts, to their feelings, signs, attempts to communicate. So you are basically the primary caregiver. You are a secure base from which they explore, because parents drop children off to your care. You are committed to build positive, caring relationships and provide consistent emotional support to children. It's a crucial requirement for development of healthy brain, for further learning, for development, and it actually helps all children to feel safe, respected, and valued. Most children who didn't have secure, respectful, reciprocal relationships at home, they rely on educational setting to catch up. So that's also quite an important principle for children who are considered to be vulnerable, and this principle informs trauma-informed care. So the second principle is partnerships. It's been a little bit contracted. So it used to be partnerships with families. Now it's partnerships with families and communities. I would also add to other professionals, and it's essential for effective early childhood education curriculum and routines and program. So partnerships are built on respect. So we respect parents, they respect us, and in this mutual respect, we listen to each other, we learn about each other, expectations, culture, values, routines. Collaborative partnerships between educators, children's families, communities, other professionals enhance children's learning and well-being. For example, if you have really good relationships with family before child starts in early childhood educational setting, they are more likely to transition better to the care. So they feel more safe because parents feel more relaxed. They know where they are going to leave their child. Next principle is respect for diversity. This principle is also a wonderful, important, fantastic principle that is respecting children's culture and families' culture. So diverse backgrounds of children, their linguistic capital, their human capital, so their funds of knowledge and virtual backpacks, as they call it. So this diversity contributes to richness of our society and learning environment. And this principle involves recognizing and respecting cultural, linguistic, and individual diversity, so different needs, personalities, etc. And it ensures that children feel valued and respected. Very important principle that was in the first EYLF as well. Now to the principle 3. That's a brand new principle. that is about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives. Incorporating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives is reflected in the National Quality Framework, or NQF, and it's essential for promoting cultural awareness and respect. Now, this principle is not only added to the new EYLF 2.0, it also is included throughout all the outcomes and other important sections of the EYLF. So, this principle emphasizes that educators' respect for unique place of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander culture, how ancient it is and how important the knowledge is, and they are committed, we are as educators are committed to value contributions of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples, recognize local elders and their cultural capital, and learn about sustainability, about diversity, about environment and other practices that can enhance early childhood education and care. Next principle is equity, inclusion, and high expectation. I have this symbol for this one. So we used to have high expectations in the first framework. Now it's been expanded, so with more focus on inclusion and equity. You can also learn about what equity is from the glossary that I mentioned. So that's the cards that are provided by SIQA. But it is an important concept, of course. So it's one of the key concepts of social justice, and this means that we hold expectations of children achieving their own learning goals, no matter their background or their current diversity, for example, neurodiversity. So children may have additional needs, they might have special requests, dietary preferences, but we view them as capable learners, and they are able to achieve their own potential or develop within their zone of proximal development, if you use Vygotsky theory. This principle emphasizes importance of inclusive practices and also about barriers to inclusion and participation of children. So quite often educators, when plan opportunities for learning, may not really think about child who doesn't like to participate in group experiences, or they might not like the loud noises and they cover their ears like that. So this means that we need to create experiences that are inclusive for all, or at least accommodate children who are not able to participate in all group experiences. So it's all about how we meet their needs and how we send them a message that you are valuable too and you can learn and hear. The next principle I'm going to talk about is also new. It is sustainability, one of my favorite principles. It also is reflected in the National Quality Framework, and it focuses on educators promoting sustainable practices and fostering children understanding and respect for environment. This principle was somewhat embedded in the outcome too, but now it's been put away as a separate principle, and I think it's important. We need to think about everything we do through sustainability lens. For example, before laminating something, question what's going to happen to these laminated documents later. Before using too much water for experiences, think about are there any other ways to use the rainwater. It's also about choosing resources and activities. So when I was a beginning early childhood educator, I used to waste a lot of resources, and I'm not proud of it. And this principle makes you be reflective and think about environmental education, how to integrate it in all aspects of your curriculum and all aspects of center routines. Next one is critical reflection. Critical reflection and ongoing professional learning. Continuous professional development and reflective practice are also integral to National Quality Framework, and now they are embedded in the EYLF. So we already had critical reflection as a reflective practice. It's been expanded, explained, added on, and basically we need to implement this principle throughout all our practices. For example, this principle highlights the importance of professional growth and adapting practices based on reflection and evidence. It's Also about ongoing PD or professional development, professional learning, that educational leaders, national nominated supervisors and educators themselves organize and participate in, not to lose track of those new developments, research, to update their practices and avoid folk pedagogies, or pedagogies when we say why change because it works, we used to do it this way, why should we improve it? And I think it's an important principle. Finally, we have collaborative leadership and teamwork as a principle. So educators exercise aspects of leadership in their daily work with children. So it's not just nominated supervisor or director of the center who is a leader. We also have educational leader. We have people who are room leaders, but everyone can step up to become a leader in a shared leadership model. So this really is an advanced model that is brand new, was developed by researchers such as Vaniganayaki, and this principle now is part of the EYLF. How amazing! So positive work culture, peer mentoring and coaching, shared learning can enhance our practices if we practice collaborative leadership and teamwork. So this is the end of the first video about EYLF. The part 2 will be focusing on EYLF practices, and the part 3 will talk about outcomes. Thanks for watching, and subscribe not to miss any of the future videos. Bye for now.